Early in World War II, the German Ordnance Board wanted a semi-automatic rifle. A couple of manufacturers responded, including Mauser. What they ended up with was one of the weirdest, most bulky guns of World War II.
When Nazi Germany begins World War II, German forces are equipped with a rifle that was known as the backbone of the Wehrmacht, the Kar-98K carbine, in 7.92 by 57 millimeter Mauser, firing from a 5-shot internal spring-actuated magazine. The manually operated bolt-action Kar-98K was an absolutely excellent weapon with very, very few faults and very, very few shortcomings. If one shortcoming could be identified about the Kar-98K Mauser, it was that it just wasn't semi-automatic. Nazi Germany in this respect was 10 years behind the United States.
The Germans were their own worst enemies. You know, we think of the Germans being greatly innovative in military firearms, and they were. But they also had a few quirks, and those quirks set them back in small arms development in the interwar period, when they could have had a good semi-automatic rifle, the rival of our M1, at the time when we had it. But they got fixated on certain prejudices.
Some of the things that Wehrmacht was looking for really made the design of the rifle pretty much doomed. They didn't want a gas port, no holes in the barrel, naughty, 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 can't have that. They wanted no things moving around on the outside. They also wanted the ability to manually operate the rifle.
Walther and Mauser both went to work, both submitted semi-automatic pattern service rifles, and both of them were adopted into service in 1941. The Walther service rifle, the G41W, the G41 Walther design, is a bit more common and something that you will encounter out there. And it was ultimately the design that won this little competition. The less common of the two, though, is the G41M, Mauser's submission to this design competition.
The G41M, it was a marvelously complex gun that also stemmed from vestigial prejudice. Because of the troubles they were having trying to develop a semi-auto gun, the Germans really did not trust semi-automatic operation entirely. It has to work as a bolt action if it doesn't work as a semi-automatic. So what do? You put a bolt handle on it and you have a turn bolt Mauser-style action on the back. And that's exactly what they grafted onto a G41M.
The shortcomings primarily centered around the bang system. And the problem with the bang system was primarily the fact that ammunition at the time was corrosive. Then, of course, with carbon fouling and over prolonged firing, the combination of corrosive salts and carbon fouling within this expansion chamber could cause the weapon to fail in combat. And it was for that reason that this gas trap system was ultimately abandoned. Now, Mauser does not win the competition, Walther does, although Walther ignored 2 of the 3 requirements of the competition. Nevertheless, the G41M rifle is a firearm that served in combat during World War II. It did so in low numbers. It was not encountered very frequently on the battlefield, and when it was used in combat, it apparently was less than desirable because of the tendency of the corrosive salts of the corrosive ammo and the carbon fouling to gum up the works of the bank system expansion chamber. But nevertheless, at least as a footnote to small arms history in World War II, the G41M is noteworthy.
The Germans eventually adopted the Gewehr 43, which had a hole in the barrel. Who knew that a gas port actually works? And the Gewehr 43 really bears little resemblance to the Gewehr 41. And Gewehr 41s were mostly sent to the Eastern Front, and like most of the soldiers that went there, very few came back. The Gewehr 41 is one of the more rare World War II small arms for collectors today.
Mauser made about 6,000 of these guns. Walther made anywhere from 40 to 140,000. Nobody really knows. So as far as setting off to have a sample collection of long arms of the Third Reich, you're going to find a 43 if you're willing to pay for it. A 41 you're going to be looking for quite a while.
The G41, either from Walther or of course from Mauser, pretty rare guns these days, and not many people shoot them. Anyhow, that's all the time that we have for this week. If you like this show and you're not an NRA member, you need to join right now. Go to AmericanRifleman.org. I'm Mark Keefe, and I'll see you next week right here on American Rifleman Television.